Now, today's case seemed routine indeed. It was another workers' comp case, nothing too special. The client just wanted an activity check on the guy to see how he presented himself. That is how a lot of these types of insurance cases start out. The insurance company just wants a quick activity check to see how active the subject is. They may be requesting the activity check because the policyholder got wind of some activities from a coworker, or they saw the claimant out doing something, or a doctor's report came back with some interesting information, or any number of other reasons. Activity checks are often limited to 4 to 8 hours of work. If the PI gets some activity, then they may want to extend the case into a full surveillance depending on the activity level that was observed by the PI during the activity check. Often, from my experience, if these activity checks get extended, they can end up going from anywhere from a couple of days to multiple rounds of surveillance over an extended period of time. I have had some activity checks turn into cases that spanned over multiple years. So doing a good job on an activity check can pay off in dividends, folks. So don't shrug off those short 4-hour assignments too fast. Get out there, do the best job you can, and don't be afraid to suggest some additional work to be conducted based on your observations. Now, today's case study started out in a normal, everyday family type residential neighborhood. The subject was a 30-something married man with 2 kids, a dog, and 2 cars. He allegedly had sustained injuries to his upper right arm that precluded him from conducting even the most simple physical tasks. Now, as always, I did my pre-surveillance checks on the guy. I was able to locate a good photo of him and his wife and his kids. I got current vehicle license plates for him, and I saw some interesting activity on his rap sheet. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. Now, he seemed like a normal guy. He had some good jobs in the past. He was a homeowner. He had a good family. He even had a church that he was a member of. But that rap sheet showed numerous run-ins with the law. Most of these were minor traffic offenses, but there was a DUI and a couple of harassment and misdemeanor assault charges. These appeared to be random in nature. Given that tidbit of information, I knew I wanted to keep my distance just in case this guy was some sort of a loose gun. And folks, I am glad I did that. You won't believe the things that I saw this guy doing. Day 1 out on surveillance, I get out well before sunrise. On arrival, I observed both vehicles registered to him and his wife parked in the driveway. I scouted out the neighborhood and I sat there and I watched for a short period of time to see what way some of the neighbors left the neighborhood. I wasn't real familiar with the area, and the neighborhood had several egress points, so I wanted to see if one was more popular than the others. After I gathered a little intel of the neighborhood activity, I decided to set up a position about a block and a half away that would allow me to watch the residents, both cars, and position myself to follow in the 2 most likely directions that he might leave in. I sat there and I watched for a couple of hours as the neighborhood got active. Everyone gets up. They take their kids to school. Children are leaving their houses. They're walking to school. People are heading off to work. Then it all settles down a little after 8 a.m. This is very typical on surveillance. Nothing unusual. And to be honest, a pleasure to just see a case start off on the normal side of things. Then my subject comes out of the front door of the house. He's walking at a fairly brisk pace, heading directly towards one of his vehicles. He gets to his car. He opens the passenger side front door. He grabs some papers out of the car. He slams the car door with his injured arm, I might add, and not in a brace of any kind, I might add, and then he heads back into the house. Nice. I got my first video. I got my face shot. I got some good stuff on him. I know from experience this one is probably going to get extended to at least a 2-day surveillance. 2-day surveillances, folks, is what we in the surveillance world live for. Most jobs, not all to be sure, but most are 2-day assignments. With these activity checks, I usually get the 1 day on activity, and then if I have good activity, I get an additional 2 days, making it a 3-day assignment. Surveillance work is all about bulk work most of the time. So however many days you can get added onto a case, the better off they are. A lot of these cases, if merited, also came back 3 or 4 or more times over the course of a year. And return assignments are really nice because you already have a lot of intel on your subject. You know the neighborhood, you know how they drive, and a lot of times you have a good idea of their daily routines. Now, you won't believe what this guy does next. Just hang on, folks. About an hour later, I see him. His wife and two little ones, about 3 and 5 years old, come out of the front door and they head down the stairs, walking right towards the cars over there in the driveway. He gets to the car. He opens up the back doors. He runs towards the kids. He grabs them both and picks them up, one in each arm, then runs to the car, puts them into the rear seats, and then slams those doors closed. I am like, wow, chill, dude. I figured he must be in a huge hurry for something. Then I see him walking towards the driver's side of the vehicle. Then his wife motions for him to get into the passenger side. He says something, not sure what. Then he complied. She got into the driver's seat and away they go. The chase is on, folks. I could tell the entire time I was following them that they were having some engaging conversation with each other inside that car. I tried to keep my distance, but man, she sure drove fast. So I had to stay somewhat close to make sure that I didn't lose them at a light. She had a tendency to also speed up at every light quite a bit. I figured I was somewhat safe from getting burned as they had plenty of distractions inside the car between the kids and their engaging conversations between themselves, if you know what I mean. I followed them for about 15 minutes. Then they pull into the county courthouse parking lot. I'm like, great, now what do I do? I found a parking space where I could grab some quick video of him as he got out of the car and walked by himself into the courthouse. Then I grabbed my trusty covert spy cam and I headed in on foot surveillance. As I entered, I went through the security checkpoint, then right to the court docket terminals so I could see if his name was on one of them. Now, a word of caution, folks. A lot of court security people today know all about covert spy cams, and they will check your key fobs, your phone, and everything else to make sure you are not entering with one of them. And if they see it, if they notice it as a camera, you will get turned around. Most courts today do not allow any recordings of any kind. Now, back in the days of this case, that wasn't the case. So I just grabbed my covert camera. It was a cell phone style one, and I headed in. Now, one thing I do now is I take my regular cell phone in with me. If I think my subject is in a courtroom or some area, I bring up the camera, I set it for video, I hit record, and then I put my phone up to my face like I'm talking to somebody. I walk in, I do a slow turnaround so it can grab video of everybody and everything. Then I sit down and I assess the situation. Now I find my subject's name on the docket for traffic court. I head over there. I got my video of him standing in line to talk to the DA. Then I went into the courtroom. I sat there and I waited a little while until they called him in. Then I got a little more video. He was there on a speeding ticket. Get this, folks. Doing over 75 in a 35. He pled not guilty. The judge set a court date and he walked off none too happy. I followed him out of the courtroom at a distance, got some more video as he walked to his car. This time he motioned for his wife to move over. She did. He got into the drive side and away they went. After my quick sprint back to my car, I was still able to catch up to them at the red light. It appeared they had continued their engaging conversation inside the car. I was several cars behind them, but I was fine with that. I then followed them to a nearby grocery store, and guess what? Yep, he drove faster than his wife. I really just got lucky with the red lights, and he didn't go too far. I wasn't even sure if he turned into the grocery store parking lot, but I couldn't see him ahead of me, so I took the chance that he did go there, and I found his car fairly quickly. I went on foot surveillance again with my trusty covert spy cam. I got a little bit more video. I was a little more nervous, though, this time, as I had been sitting right by the doors in the courtroom, and he had walked right past me when he left. Now, he and his wife were still having that engaging conversation inside the store, too, so I didn't want to accidentally get caught in the middle of that. He was throwing stuff into the cart. He was yelling, and, well, it wasn't pretty, so I kept my distance. When they headed to the checkout lanes, I headed to my vehicle. I was never happier to be in the safe confines of my surveillance vehicle, folks. I get all set up. Then here he comes. I grab more video as he's walking towards the car, and he continues to utilize his injured arm, putting everything into that trunk. Imagine that. Next, he speeds off out of the parking lot. I thought he was going to kill someone the way he was driving. He gets about 2 blocks away, then he suddenly pulls into a gas station. I'm like, oh no, am I burned? I don't think so. I don't think I was too close, was I? I went around the block quickly and I parked across and down the street a bit, and I continued to get video. There he was, fueling his car, and then his wife gets out. They continue their engaging conversation. Then suddenly he reaches into his front pocket and he pulls out a pack of smokes. Yep, right there. He's fueling his car. He's arguing with his wife. He lights up a smoke. I quickly check my distance and I think, Am I far enough to not be in danger? I believe I am. I don't see anybody else at the pumps. Then he pulls the gas filler out of his car. He gets in his car and he speeds off. This definitely was one of the most tense moments I have ever had on surveillance, to be sure. I then followed him home. Then I contacted the client. The client said, great job. Go ahead and finish an 8-hour day and do 2 more. I was like, okay, no problem. I end up getting that case back about 3 or 4 more times that year. None of the other rounds were quite as exciting as that first one, but I got plenty of video every single time.